Is social media an ineffective way of environmental activism? As the younger generations, our lives are so deeply rooted with technology. We use it in schools, at home, and with friends. It is no surprise that technology can influence the way our society thinks and behaves. It is probable that some of you who use social media, such as Instagram, have seen a string of stories or posts about a specific environmental issue. It usually starts with one person and then quickly spreads around. It is like a domino effect. And while it may seem like there's action being taken against the issue, there is actually very little being done at all. Personally, when I repost about an environmental issue, I feel like by doing so, I'm becoming a better person. I can assume some of you might relate to this too. The general idea of feeling like a better individual through online activism is supported by research. Research groups at the University of Geneva explain that this is an example of low-cost activism. It roots in wanting to boost one's self-esteem. It provides self-assurance that one is doing something good for the world, especially when this is displayed publicly. When a good deed is witnessed, this allows others to perceive the individual in a positive manner. However, in this case, there is a false sense of accomplishment. This is due to the lack of real-world impact such as time or donations, which makes social media activism so ineffective. This overall phenomenon is known as microactivism or slacktivism, where, say, a large group of individuals who are not entirely invested play a small part. These individuals may be invested emotionally or truly care about the environment. However, there is no physical effort being put in. This heavily contrasts with traditional activism, where, say, a smaller group of people who are entirely dedicated put in all their effort. Though I must mention again that I'm not entirely innocent myself. I have found myself reposting about environmental issues which concern me too. And overall, it isn't wrong to do so. One just needs to take a step back and reflect upon if it will really make a more meaningful change. Another point to consider is not only is it futile for those who are posting, but it is equally so for those who are receiving the posts. Those on the receiving end may briefly acknowledge it and then continue to scroll through. The culture of scrolling and liking results in not remembering or processing information being given. And after a while, we become almost mindless as we're exposed to too much content. This has an impact on people's attention spans. And basically, the easy access to content is made available by algorithms on every platform. The Institute of Internship and Development states that algorithms are what essentially makes a feed personalized. It does so by directing users to posts which they have previously liked or showed interest in. For example, say a user on TikTok likes a post with specific tags. More of these videos will continue to appear on their feed. Psychiatrist Anna Lemke at Stanford University elaborates on this by saying that this is what makes social media so addictive. When users are exposed to high concentration of what interests them, high levels of dopamine are released. This is the chemical in the brain that makes humans feel happy. So when one associates an activity like scrolling on social media with a positive emotion, they will continue to engage. This also has a significant impact on attention spans. And the Technical University of Denmark states that our collective attention spans are decreasing. Researchers analyzed specific trends and found that a global Twitter trend in 2013 lasted 11 hours, while another Twitter trend in 2016 lasted only 11 hours. This is a significant change, and researchers concluded that the reasoning behind this is that humans have a set attention span. However, the information available online today exceeds that. I believe that this makes it hard to convey complex environmental issues which require a deeper understanding and a sustained engagement. Essentially, if one is not already invested in advocating for the environment, they might ignore these kinds of posts entirely. This might lead to the oversimplification of a topic, which thus might undermine its importance. A good example of social media and the environment is the Willow Project. The Willow Project was an oil drilling project proposed by the company ConocoPhillips to create 3 drilling sites on the northern slope of Alaska, partially on the Natural Petroleum Preserve, making it the largest drilling operation in the US. Coming from the US and seeing such environmental damage in my home country worries me greatly. And there's not just one issue with this project. There are 2 main issues. The first one being the insane amount of carbon emissions that would be released each year. It is stated by the Natural Resources Defense Council that approximately 9.2 million metric tons of carbon will be released each year. In comparison, it is like adding 2 million new cars to the roads or opening 70 new coal power plants. The other impact was that of local levels. The native community of about 525 individuals, the Nisquit, have already reported to see adverse effects. They state that the air quality is deteriorating along with the fish and caribou populations. The Nisquit heavily depend upon the caribou for food and other resources. Overall, the surrounding areas are suffering due to the project. Consequently, this took the media by storm. Millions of people spoke out against the project by posting online, signing petitions, and protesting. However, the most popular method was by posting on TikTok underneath the hashtag #StopWillow. Overall, these videos gained about 465.5 million views. And as attention was being gained, it seemed like there was hope. However, on March 13th, 2023, the Biden administration approved the Willow Project. This was a huge loss for environmental activists and everyone who had previously tried to prevent the project. Although, a couple months later, any news of it suddenly stopped. No more posts, no more petitions being promoted. It was like, well, okay, we tried and did not succeed. Nothing we can do about that. This unfortunately proves the theory that environmental issues are becoming trends. Once people feel like there is no hope, they lose interest. And then once an issue emerges again, people grow concerned. Nothing can be achieved with this mindset. Being an environmentalist is such a grueling task, one must continue to find solutions and not lose hope. Well, now, you may be wondering, if social media isn't the best way to speak out against environmental issues, what is? Well, the first thing that should be done is educating yourself. This can be achieved by gaining information online by trusted sources such as the World Wildlife Fund or the Natural Resources Defense Council. One does not need to become an expert in these topics. However, it is important to know more than just the basics so one's efforts are more effective. The next step would be getting out there and actually participating in a collective effort. For example, protesting. It may seem difficult to find protests, however, there are most likely many protests for the environment in your own community. It is easy to ask around or search online for information regarding these events. On a smaller scale, it is just as important to have conversations with family and friends about specific environmental issues or just climate change and pollution in general. Another point to consider is being an environmentalist doesn't mean you only advocate for the environment when there is a crisis. It is essential to implement this passion into your everyday lives. This can be like trying to live sustainably. Emphasis on the trying. It is extremely difficult to live completely without contributing to pollution due to how our society functions. There are many challenges which are directly related, such as the economy, social well-being, and individuals' mindsets. Also, the European Environmental Agency states that a sudden and complete change to sustainability could result in negatively impacting large populations. For instance, if we were to completely and suddenly stop the use of fossil fuels, the populations which rely on mining as a source of income might suffer. Also, it is important to notice that our society is based upon consumerism and capitalism. So everything we buy as consumers will generate waste unless we become completely self-sufficient. Well, now, it seems almost impossible to live sustainably. However, there also are smaller things which can be done which also make a positive impact. This can be like biking, walking, recycling, and buying local produce. Humanity needs to start somewhere, so any change will be beneficial for the future. Unfortunately, many people dismiss climate change and the steps that need to be taken in order to prevent furthering the damage. Very few people are taking responsibility. This cannot be allowed. The only ones who can do so now are us, the younger generations. We must do everything in our power to speak up and protect the environment. However, we must do so effectively, as we are running out of time before the point of no return. This is when climate change becomes irreversible. We need to get off of our screens and make a more meaningful change. Thank you.